Geordie Journo's back in the bowels of St James's Park. Same place as last night, just from a different angle.
Yeah, different little background there.
I'll start with a caveat. Newcastle have just, of course, beat Athletic Club 2-0 in the Champions League at St James's Park. Great third win in a row in the Champions League, fifth win in a row at St James's Park. But we were just told, just before we started filming, you've got 10 minutes, lads. So it might be another video where we'll sort of move around.
You'll
and you may see a Newcastle club employee sort of wandering in the background, checking his watch. But I probably shouldn't have wasted half a minute talking about that. But I thought we'll give you context. Jordan, Newcastle, they've done it again in the Champions League. Premier League form, up and down. Champions League, since that Barcelona game, hey, they're doing well.
Yeah, no, let's start with the positives. 3 wins in a row in the Champions League, up to 6th in the Champions League table, level on points like Liverpool, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid. That all sounds very nice. They've put themselves in an excellent position to go and qualify for at least the last 32, if you like. The last 24. Last 24, sorry. They only need probably 2 points, maybe even 1 point. Basically, last season it was 11 points to qualify for that second stage. But if they go and get top 8, which again they've put themselves in a position to potentially do that, then they would of course go into the last 16. So they put themselves in a really, really strong position in the Champions League, where it's up to them now what they want to do. Do they want to go through, or do they want to try and challenge to go through in the top bracket? But that's almost, I think, depending on how the Premier League form goes over. How the Premier League form unfolds in the next couple of weeks / months, because they've got to improve on that. But no, just on tonight. Said in the video yesterday, would we have learned anything new from tonight? I don't think we did. I didn't think it was a particularly great performance. I think Newcastle's best spell was probably after they scored the second goal. Largely comfortable, but then failed it at the end. Bilbao had a lot of chances at the end. Nick Pope was alert. I think Eddie Howe alluded to sort of Bruno coming off and losing control of that midfield. I think that's a fair reflection, but they got the result. It wasn't a great performance, as Newcastle sort of fallen in line with Newcastle this season. They haven't really performed brilliantly, but they got a much needed win after the weekend. And we look on to Sunday now, but obviously reflecting on this one first. Yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but as was said in yesterday's video, it doesn't really tell us an awful lot. I'm not surprised by today's result, and I'm definitely not surprised by the performance. I thought in the first half it was subpar, sort of rescued by an excellent header, an unbelievable header from Dan Burn. Eddie Howe was asked, was it better than the Carabao Cup final header? I think objectively it was. It's just that moment of the Carabao Cup final was obviously we were right behind it. We were right behind that header. It was in from the left his head.
Newcastle World's Charlie Bennett described it as a Roberto Carlos header, as in his free kick that curled wide of the post and like sort of bananaed in. And that was sort of the view we got, because Eddie Howe said it looked like it was in from the moment it hit his head.
It was.
I mean, it curled brilliantly into that far corner of the goal. And fair play to Dan Burn, because he's come under a bit of heat recently. For myself included. And he sort of responded to his critics with a great performance at left back on the whole. I thought he got better in the second half, then taken off after a knock, but his header was great, and ultimately that probably saved Newcastle in the first half, because I don't think they were great in the first half. I thought the club had a couple of chances. They weren't great either, though. Second half they started really well, got themselves that second goal, that all-important second goal, which they teased in the first half a little bit. Joelinton should have scored. He messed that up badly. Nick Voltemada had a header, went wide, but then Joelinton made amends 4 minutes into the second half. Great header. Fairly straightforward header from a Harvey Barnes cross, 2-0, and then Newcastle actually pushed for a third after that. I thought they could have grabbed it. It could have been a bit like the Benfica game, and then Bruno gets taken off. Illness, obviously, in the build-up to this game, sort of took its toll. He looked like he was maybe not at 100%, and he even admitted that after the game. And then after that, Newcastle lost a bit of control of the game. Bilbao sort of pushed for that goal. Shouldn't say Bilbao, Athletic Club pushed for that goal, and it never came. Nick Pope made a couple of good saves, but all in all, a very comfortable evening for Newcastle United. And looking at the Champions League picture as a whole, it does look really healthy, but what you'd say is they played Barcelona, lost that game. The other 3 teams have played are not in the top 24.
No.
They've played relatively poor teams in the context of this season's Champions League so far. but they've given themselves a great platform, as you probably would have expected looking at the fixtures. You would have said after 4 games they need to be in a good position, because 3 games at home, the easiest team they're going to play away are in those 4 games, and now you've got Marseille, Leverkusen, a couple of tricky ties, tricky away ties, PSV back at home in the new year, and then PSG. But they've put themselves in a really good position.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off against ahead of really tough away games. Marseille is going to be a brutal one.
They're not doing too well either, though.
I know, but it's a hostile atmosphere. If you want to touch on Newcastle's away form, which we'll come on to in a bit.
They need to address their away form.
I think the next 2 away games are tough. I think out of those 2 away games, I'd probably back them to get a result in Leverkusen more than I would in Marseille. But it takes the pressure off. I think go and effectively lose those 2 games and then turn up here against PSV, who are struggling in the Champions League this season. And if they get 3 points, then they're through. So no, it was a big win tonight in terms of their Champions League position. But on the wider front, looking at the Premier League form, looking ahead to Sunday, we didn't learn too much tonight, and that's, as I spoke on the video yesterday, that is the questions now that have to be answered. The questions are going to be about Sunday, and they have to be answered. But before we throw about that, just on the sort of the star performers, I agree. I think Dan Burn was one of them. Sandro Tonali got the Champions League man of the match.
Yeah, it's interesting what the sort of merits are of the Champions League man of the match, because we've disagreed with it previously. Anthony Gordon was no debate in the Benfica game. Anthony Elanga won it in the Union SG game. Tonight I thought Sandro Tonali was fine. He was better in the second half. I thought Dan Burn for his head out was decent, shaky sometimes defensively in the first half. I actually thought, and I'm sure you agree with me, Kieran Trippier was excellent.
Yeah, he was my man of the match. I give him an 8.5 to try and be different on my player ratings for Newcastle. But yeah, he was my man of the match. You see how much I missed him on Sunday, how much his performance I proved how much I missed him on Sunday. I mean, it goes without saying the fact that Eddie Howe ended up playing 4 different right backs in that game, but just so underrated, I would still say. I know you think he's getting on, people think I think people see he adds value, but they don't value him as much as what he should be valued, because even I see watch him on the pitch, so vocal, just cool and calm, just a very, very good football. And I mean, these set pieces today caused Athletic Club a lot of problems.
Yeah, great assist for Dan.
Great assist. So for me, he was my man of the match, and you could see how much they missed him on Sunday at West Ham.
Yeah, he was my man of the match too. We need to start disagreeing, really. It would make for more entertaining videos. That's where Liam sort of adds that edge.
Yeah, I wonder who's Liam's man of the match was. Yeah. I reckon he would have went with Tonali.
Why not?
Yeah, just
let us know, Liam, in the comments. L.
Yes, dash L.
Dash L. But yeah, get well soon, Liam, of course. Get well soon, Bruno, as well. Kieran Trippier, after being ill, great performance tonight. Injury update, Anthony Gordon, it was not his night tonight.
No, it wasn't. Struggled, looked like the Premier League Anthony Gordon. Was that to be explained by his hip injury that he went off with? I think it was the 41st minute. Not really much to update on that one. Eddie Howe didn't know an awful lot. He said it was a reoccurrence.
He confirmed it was a hip issue.
He's been struggling with it for a few weeks. He said, or plagued with it for a few weeks. So he'll be assessed. I suspect he probably won't play at the weekend now if it's been a problem that's been niggling away. But you've also got England coming up, so let's be honest, he'll want to go away with England. So will he try and sort of force himself, or they'll try and get him to play that game? We'll have to wait and see. But him going off the pitch, and I didn't think I would say this, it didn't really impact Newcastle at all. Harvey Barnes moved over to the left-hand side and was fairly dangerous, putting the cross for the goal. Jacob Murphy started bright, but just kept giving the ball away. Really struggled to retain the ball. But in this game, particularly the other day, they didn't really miss Anthony Gordon. Of course, the build-up was about his Premier League form. So does the Anthony Gordon injury at this moment in time doesn't feel as big, because he has been criticised and has been scrutinised for his performances. But I do think not having a player of Anthony Gordon's class there when he on his day is a blow. So hopefully that's not a long-term one. But in terms of the context of the day, we didn't really notice his absence.
It wasn't a great attacking performance from Newcastle on the whole. I thought both the wingers, I'll give credit to Harvey Barnes, because I thought he was a threat after he moved out to the left wing and put the good ball in for Joelinton's header. But Nick Voltemada was a frustrating evening for him. He kept going, he kept pushing, he looked quite tired towards the end before he was taken off, but Newcastle dealt a blow ahead of the game with Willisula ruled out just moments ahead.
I think that's a first for me, that one.
Yeah?
I've never had to, in this job anyway, right, about a player that had to drop off the bench for injury. Have you?
Possibly.
You think? Have I just got a poor memory?
I think we'll have before Joelinton's done it before, I'm sure.
Has he?
Yeah, I'm sure he has.
Glad you're here.
Well, we were sat cosy in the press room,
I was having
both
cup of
you
tea,
and me,
ginger biscuits.
it was like, yep, Joelinton's, Willisula's out, and we just went, ugh, right, back to the press box, back to our laptops. So, yeah, that was that. Eddie Howe said he'll be assessed. I had a conversation just before, after the team news had been announced, and it was like, no, you're probably best waiting and seeing if you can get available for the weekend. But yeah, just before we move on and have our ad break, I want to give a shout out to Lewis Hall. Came on, tricky situation. Good to see him back. His quality on the ball, the way he sort of glides past people, confident after a month out. Good to see.
Yeah, looked really sharp. Brought a bit of touch of class on the left hand side.
He's unbelievable.
Surgeon runs forward. Just people forget how good he is. Lewis Hall.
He gives me sort of the feeling that things can get better for Newcastle United when he comes back. If he comes back and is fully fit on that left hand side, left back, there's not many better.
No. I mean, he was up until his injury in February. He was the best left back in the Premier League. There might be a few in there, as I mentioned before, sort of Kirk as a Bournemouth, and I think Bournemouth. I know because people watch this and go, no, it's Bournemouth. And Robinson, I think at the time, was in decent form for Fulham, but Lewis Hall was just broken the England setup. Got injured at a really bad time, obviously ahead of the England camps with Thomas Tuchel first coming in. So no, I think hopefully that's the start of a run of games and him being back in the side, because when you talk about Newcastle's form needing to change, he is potentially key to that. Gives you that sort of dynamism down the left hand side. No slight on Dan Burn, but Lewis Hall is a proper left back, and you've seen that today when he came on. Dan Burn had a good game, but Lewis Hall just looked like a proper left back. Yeah. Getting forward, just a real quality performer, and hopefully he's over his injury troubles and we start to see Lewis Hall back in this team on a regular basis. Yeah,
and some welcome selection dilemmas hopefully coming up for Eddie Howe when he's talking about Dan Burn. Obviously, naturally would go back to centre-back, but Sven Botman, Malik Chow doing well again tonight. Kieran Trippier doing well at right-back. Tino Livermento's not too far away. Some welcome selection dilemmas in that defence. Once again, 3 clean sheets in a row in the Champions League. Hey, looking strong. And we've managed to push to 13 minutes here, so timekeeping from the Newcastle staff.
I'm just concerned that door is now locked. We'll wait.
That would be a savage blow. An unclassy gesture. Yeah, we'll go.
There we go.
Right. On that note, we're going now. On that note, it's time for. It was Speak of the Devil, that one. Time for a word from our Geordie Journal sponsors. Here they are. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. For 21 years, JLM Travel have been offering great deals on package holidays and cruises, plus low deposits and free kids places are available. Branches at Maingate Team Valley and Front Street Wickham. RJ Building Surveyors is a trusted RICS accredited family-run firm with over 15 years of experience specialising in residential surveys and valuations. Based in Yorkshire, their expert services extend nationwide. Whether buying, selling or seeking peace of mind about your home, they've got you covered. Right, we're back in the boring bowels of St James's Park because we've sort of been turfed around.
Yeah, there was a Champions League ball there, but it's now not there, and this is the best room we could find, so it's just a white background. We are still inside St James's Park.
Yes, believe us when we say that. But moving on from the Champions League, it's fitting that there's no Champions League background because we have to move on.
We do.
Good result for Newcastle tonight, but it doesn't change anything in regard to the Premier League.
Yes, absolutely. They've got to go and get a result at Brentford. Now, I'm a bit fed up with this run at the Champions League, and losing Premier League games and you get your Champions League game, you win that, and then they've actually been fortunate because they've had a home game after, so it essentially won both games after the Champions League game they've had. Then you go and do that this week, and then you go and do it on the road where they can't win. They can't win on the road.
They've really struggled.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Eddie Howe's faced a lot of questions this week, and it's probably telling the fact that even before the game he was asked about the away form, and even sort of after the game he was being asked about Sunday. So again, as much as the win was important in terms of the Champions League, it's there was little to be gained tonight in terms of, as I say, answering questions. It's a massive game on Sunday. They've no, it's a huge game because you look at the Premier League table. They've Newcastle 10 games in are already playing catch up.
You know,
so they can't really afford to keep dropping down the table. And if they don't get a result on Sunday, they'll be dropping down the table even more. And then you come back after the international break with tough games, Manchester City, and then you've got to go to a place like Everton. New stadium, but historically they've never got results against an Everton team away from home. So they've got to sort themselves out in the Premier League.
Yep, but the idea's up. You'd hope a result like this would be a catalyst for better performances in the Premier League. But there's something about Newcastle away from home this year, really, that, or certainly since the Carabao Cup final, where they've really struggled to deliver and actually pose a threat and ask questions of the opposition team or the home team. And Brentford last year was that was the line in the sand game last year. And we're hoping West Ham was the line in the sand game. Step in the right direction tonight as such, but it's more of a sideways step in the right direction because it ultimately doesn't impact you in the Premier League. And you're just looking ahead. Brentford, tricky team. Caused them problems last year. A lot of problems last year. I think we've seen signs tonight. Defensively, they're solid. If they can, and against West Ham they weren't. If they can have Malik Chow, Sven Botman in good form, that'll give them a platform. And then wait and see what the strikers can do, what the attacking players can do.
Yeah, no, it is a massive concern. There was a comment in after the West Ham game, and you said, no, Brentford are a really, really good side, and yeah, they are a good side, and it's a really tough game. But if Newcastle need to start climbing the table, they need to start getting results, and ultimately Brentford is again, as much as they're a tough opponent, is a place that you need to go and win at, especially when you've dropped points at West Ham. That's what I mean. In these opening 10 games, we are just 5 or 6 games into a season. 10 games is often spoke about a benchmark.
Yes.
There was a former manager here called Steve Bruce who said, "Judge me after 10 games." Look, I'm not at all comparing the situation to Steve Bruce, but the 10 games is seen as a benchmark. Yeah. And Newcastle, at their 10-game benchmark, are not in a good position.
And what worries me is you look at the away teams they've played. West Ham, Bournemouth. Okay, Bournemouth are doing well. Leeds. These aren't exactly... Brighton. They're not exactly...
Villa at the time were in... That Villa game at the time we didn't know, but they weren't dreadful.
And they were against 10 men Villa as well. 10 men with 20 minutes to go. So they haven't really played the games where you go, that's a write-off. Every game they've gone into away from home, Newcastle probably gone in, if not favourites, certainly more there or thereabouts. Yeah. Villa may have been favourites ahead of that game. Every other game Newcastle have gone in, and I reckon the average football fan looking at that game would have went, I'd back Newcastle win. They haven't won any of them. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't played any of the top 6 away from home. So they've still got a brutal fixture list to come away from home.
Exactly.
So you can't leave any more points on the table, as you put it. So they're going to have to go and take something on Sunday. Fingers crossed they can do that. As I say, that they've got a lot of questions to answer. I keep saying that, but they do. There's a lot of question marks around this team and the mentality. And Dan Burn summed up yesterday about getting up for the Champions League nights, but not being able to do it away at Brentford. So they've got to go and do that. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going through the motions of. Yeah, I mean, you can't take the Champions League for granted. I don't think you can. I think I've came to that sort of realisation over the last probably 40 hours. As much as I wish Newcastle were doing better in the Premier League, this is still a competition that you've got to enjoy.
Absolutely.
But ultimately on that, you'll not be back here next year if you don't buck up your ideas. And they've already put themselves in a really difficult position to get in this competition again next year. They've got to go and put a run together. And that has to start at some point, and they can't continue to keep being inconsistent. They're going to have to go on a consistent run like they did last year to pull themselves back into the mix. And it has to start somewhere, and that has to start on Sunday, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree. And there was something Eddie Howe was asked about, and we touched on it on our video yesterday, which was about the, I was going to say it, the housery of, of Newcastle United. And Eddie Howe echoed that. I agree with it to a point, but is that almost like a lazy sort of argument where it's like, we're not winning away from home, we need to be nastier?
So I'll bring Liam. I'll bring Liam into this video, because I was speaking on the phone. He said the Dan Burn stuff wasn't right. He said, realistically, you just got to play well. You've just got to play well. Never mind
being nasty.
Nasty. Just play good football and beat teams. Yeah. And to be fair, he's right.
He's right, but they do need that edge back.
I think. Yeah. But I think they lack game management. I think 2 years ago you associated game management as being one of
Newcastle took the lead and you went.
Exactly, they would shut up shop. And I mean, they had the best defensive record in England, level with Manchester City, because that's that they had good game management and they could shut up shop. They haven't. I mean, they sort of have on the road this year. They just haven't scored. So now they just need to find a medium. Come together, score goals, and defend.
It's that simple.
It's that easy.
Eddie, that's all you need to do. Well, not Eddie. He's not the one scoring.
No.
Yeah, it's simple, this management game, potentially. We seem to think it is anyway. So, yeah, I think we need to see Nick Voldemort. He'll be the man, because Will Asula, again, not fit tonight, and probably, he's realistically not going to start.
Johan
Wissa either. Yeah. So Nick Voldemort tasked with leading the line. He's had, although he scored against Spurs, the last 2 games he's been a bit isolated, a bit more quiet, a bit more frustrated. So we need to see him getting back, leading the line, spearheading Newcastle's attack on Sunday.
Yeah, been very isolated the last few games. Frustrated man he was tonight, Nick Voldemort. Okay, I mean, even the games where he was scoring, I suppose he was feeding off scraps. That hasn't really changed.
Still yet to have a shot on target.
Yeah,
saved.
I mean, it was interesting today, because I did see little tweaks from Eddie Howe. Maybe he's been doing this, but I sort of clocked on today as when there was first half, when the ball went long, sort of Anthony Gordon moved into the central position. Joelinton then went next to Anthony Gordon, and it was Nick Voldemort sort of dropped in, so you could see they were trying to get bodies beyond Nick Voldemort.
Yeah.
And Eddie Howe has spoken about Joelinton as needing to score more goals. The only thing with that is
tonight.
He did. I mean, he missed that one-on-one.
That was poor.
But he got into some good positions.
He scored a goal that was ruled out for offside. I went, that's miles off, and then the replay, he was about that far off. So
I love Joelinton, but if you're relying on him for goals consistently, given that he's signed as a number 9 at £40 million for his football club and never looked like a striker. If that's the sort of avenue that they want to go down, and he's our goal scorer, then that concerns me a little bit. Again, it goes back to the point, they need to get goals from everywhere, and that's, I think, what they're still trying to work out, is getting goals from everywhere in the team, and not just or just get more bodies around Nick Voldemort, because he's a very, very isolated boy. We're
15 games into the season. Do you know Eddie Howe's strongest team?
Do I know Eddie
Howe's strongest team? It's a video for another time. Yeah, I recognise that, but just yes or no, do you have an idea of what it is?
I think I'd have an idea, but that's maybe through sort of blind loyalty from players that I've watched for two years. There's players underperforming, but I would still put them in the.
We wanted Joelinton. I was saying during the game, it's sort of like the curse of us. We say, get Joelinton out, he scores tonight. Yeah. Previous rounds we've said, or previous games we've said, get Anthony Gordon out, he ends up scoring. So
who we're getting out for Sunday?
Who are we getting out for Sunday?
The full
Nick
team.
Voldemort, get him.
Get out.
For no one.
Yeah. No, anyway. I just, fingers crossed they can go and get a result.
They've got to, and you'll be flying high.
Yeah, I know, I'm not there on Sunday, I'm flying to New York. This is terrible planning on my part. I thought, there's no chance Brentford gets moved for the Sunday. It'll be a Saturday, 3 o'clock game. I'm safe to fly on the Sunday to New York. Of course, the game gets moved, and I'll be in the air as Newcastle kick off against Brentford. I hope I can watch it on the plane. Has anyone been on British Airways or American Airways? Please let us know if you can watch Sky Sports on there, because if you can, that'll delight me.
Jordan boost.
Kill a lot of hours of my long think it's 7-hour flight. So
well, you were being ambitious anyway, planning a trip to London the day before flying to New York.
Well, my last didn't know, but I was going to meet at Heathrow. No.
That is loyalty to Newcastle United, the Geordie Journals.
I hate missing games. I know. I think it's the first I've missed probably since Leeds. I wasn't there for the John Joe Shelby Leeds. I think that's the first time I missed a game in this country anyway.
Yeah.
Oh. Aye, never mind.
Be more like Liam.
Yeah. But I might be on Friday's video. We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
We haven't discussed that yet because I'm not at Friday's press conference. I'll be passing on the duties to Charlie Bennett of Newcastle World, who is covering the game in my absence, so he'll be at Eddie Howe's press conference.
Okay.
But we could meet up for a debrief.
Well, hopefully Liam's feeling better and we'll get him
crossed.
at Brentford because solo video after a difficult defeat. I'm going to have to bring on me sort of get me energy up and really sort of, I don't know, channel me inner Liam if he's not there because
get passionate, get angry. No, hopefully you're really happy.
Hopefully I am.
I hope I'm really happy watching the play.
If not, just dream
I'll
of
just
what
turn
it
off.
could be.
Just forget about it.
Anyway, that was a Geordie Journals video about Newcastle United's 2-0 win over Athletic Club in the Champions League, and we'll be back, or at least myself will be back at Eddie Howe's pre-match press conference on Friday ahead of that all-important trip that we may have mentioned to Brentford on Sunday. But if you like what we do, please, of course, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell, hype the video.
Hype the video, please.
And of course, ring the bell for all your latest Geordie Journals content, and thank you for watching.